Queen b6, Navara now takes, and after takes, black is winning on the dark squares. I don't think this is an exaggeration. I think this is a fair picture of the squares black controls, and white does not. Notice all the dark squares black is in control of. This bishop controls so many squares, and the queen on b6 as well. Here are the 10 players taking place in the Prague Masters. Jan Duda is first seed, 27.55. We have top players such as Firuza, Hare Krishna, David Anton, all taking place in this Prague Masters. Today is round 1. My pick for game of the day will be Navara versus Duda. Let's begin. Navara has white, Duda has black. The game began as a Najdorf, e4, c5. We have d6, d4, open Sicilian, take, knight f6, knight c3, a6. Duda has a lot of experience playing the Najdorf. I've used the Chess24 database to filter out the games. Jan Duda having black, rating above 2500, playing the Najdorf. From this table, in Duda's chess career, he has played the Najdorf 37 times. He has faced bishop e3, the most common reply, 11 times, and in this game, he faces another h3 Najdorf. Navara goes h3 and now e6. g4 expanding on the kingside, but Duda delays Navara's expansion with h6. In the past, interesting to note, Duda has played knight fd7 3 times and d5 once, so he is the first to surprise his opponent. Now Duda plays h6, this is to stop white getting quick space on the kingside. Bishop g2, knight c6, bishop e3, bishop e7, f4. Now Duda goes knight d7, placing the knights on such squares, which he has done against this type of structure. Now after this move, I thought bishop h4 check was coming, so I thought white had to castle here. In this position, Navara played knight f3. But let's check out castle and then queen d2. I want to look at castle because there are a few interesting variations. If black castles and after knight e2, this is the interesting move. It's a bit unusual for white to retreat the knight back here. We're just looking ahead. If black takes on d4, then white will capture back. Also, there is a white pawn on f4, so black cannot go knight e5. In these types of structures, white has the chance to play b3 to stop any knight coming into c4. So that is one interesting attempt. If white played a normal move here with queen d2, you can take and then strike in the center with either e5 or b5. Now this is a nice tactic coming up. If e5, you can actually take. This is why I wanted to deviate a little bit from the game, because after bishop takes e5, you could play rook a7, but there's a brilliant move here with bishop b7. This is a tactic I've never seen before. Volunteer to put your own bishop on this diagonal, but you plan to win it back the very next move because white's king is exposed as well. Bishop takes b7, queen b6 check, and then queen takes b7, and the game goes on. I think black has good chances for counterplay on the queen side. Back to the game, knight f3 played, and g5 was chosen by Duda just to stop white expanding on the king side. Another option was just to go b5 because white's knight has left d4. It has come back to b3, so this knight, it was attacking the knight on c6, so black can take his chance to expand on the queen side. However, Duda went g5, spending 20 minutes, a big move because black's king is feeling a little bit uncertain here. With a move like this and 20 minutes of thought, perhaps Duda is saying, I will keep my king in the center. g5 and even stranger, knight e2 played by Navara, 11 minutes of thought. Now, what other moves were possible? You could just play the normal looking queen d2, getting ready for white to castle queenside. You defend f4 with another piece. You have the chance to play h4. So let's have a look at one variation. If you take and then put a knight on e5. This is why black played g5. To get the e5 square as an outpost for this rock of a knight, supported by the other knight. In this type of middle game, it's good to play around this and castle queenside. h4 could come next, put a rook on f1. There is indirect pressure against the pawn on d6, and the question remains, how does black keep his king safe? He's not going to castle kingside, the h6 pawn is a bit weak. So this was one option. Another option was to play queen e2. Same idea, you get out the way, and then you castle queenside. Queen c7, rook f1, the game goes on. Maybe black has to castle queenside as well. Put the bishop here, find a safe home, and go long. Back to the game. Navara plays knight e2, and Duda takes his chance, thinking for 9 minutes. Take, bishop takes, and now knight e5. After knight e5, Navara takes it. Perhaps white can still castle here, but it does give black an opportunity to get rid of this pawn and play h5. It turns out white's king will be weaker. You're going to take here, maybe this queen can go to b6, the rook can come to g8. Perhaps Navara should not castle kingside anymore. So back to the game, knight takes e5, take, and knight g3. Something has gone very wrong for Navara because the maneuvering, it just doesn't make sense what he's done with the knights. Queen b6, black controls so many squares. The queen is attacking b2, the knight on e5, it could stay there acting like a rock. Queen f3, getting ready to go long or short. A bit risky for black to take, losing a bit of control because white can go short. So after queen f3, bishop g5 played. If you want to see another game on dark square control, check this game out. Bishop g5, h4, and queen e3 check. Duda decides to swap queens off because he will have such a nice endgame. Take, take, king e2, drop the bishop back, rook d1, bishop d7. White's king is not really safe in the center, but black is getting very quick counterplay on the queen side. King f3, king e7, rook h2, rook g8, planning to double on the g file. Many white pieces still on the g file. Bishop h3, bishop a4, rook d2, rook c8, bishop f1, rook g6, planning rook g8 as well. Knight h5, bishop d4. This attacks the b2 pawn. Bishop on a4, as well as the rook on c8, attack c2. Notice you don't want to lose control with this because after take, take, rook c1, if you move the bishop back, then check, and it does look like some control is being lost. So, you don't want to go for that. Back to the game, knight h5, bishop d4, bishop d3, rook g8, rook g2. Two black rooks on the g-file. White's king is a bit weak. Is there a brilliant move for black to open up the position using the black bishop on a4? Can you find a tactic so then you can bring the bishop on a4 back into the game? Pause the video if you want to have a go. I will give you 5 seconds. And the move is f5. Wow. If you play e takes f5, as in the game, you can't play g takes because the rook is hanging. E takes f5 in the game, and bishop c6 check. King e2 played. If you go bishop e4, then we can take it, and then take. Take as well, forcing the white king back, and then black has two passed pawns. Navara went back with king e2, and notice the rook on g2 and the rook on g6 are attacked. Duda took on f5, and the rook on g2, it really is lacking good squares. And Navara decided not to even move it, trying to go for a tactical shot. There is no good square it can move to. If you go rook h2, then you can just take on g4. If bishop takes f5, then rook g2 check. And it looks like black is coming in. All black's pieces are just brilliant attackers here. And the king just has no good defenders. Knight g3, Navara goes for this tactic, and let's check out what happens. Because it looks like it just drops the rook on g2. Knight takes f5 check, king f6, knight d4. Notice the bishop on d3. It attacks the rook on g6. So, Black does not have time to take the knight on d4, but that's okay. Black will be winning anyway after rook takes g4. Move the knight, but black goes forward anyway. e4, and the game is over. Knight takes h6. It does fork both rooks, but after bishop f3 check, Navara resigned. If you move the king, you can throw in a check first, then you can take the rook. After king c1, you can take the rook, or even rook c8. Bishop f3 check. If you play something else, then you can go rook g1 check. Material is just falling. Bishop f1, so what? You can just move this rook. Actually here, rook e2 is mate. If you enjoyed this video, why not give it a like and subscribe to the channel at the same time. Plus, don't forget to hit that bell to get notified each time I release a new video. Thank you so much for watching.